Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be talking about some recent news regarding Octopath Traveler. Now for those of you who frequent my channel, if you haven't seen any of my Octopath videos thus far, and you don't know what the heck it is, it's a traditional turn-based RPG coming out exclusively for the Nintendo Switch on July 13th, 2018. Now we've covered all of the prologues and even done a speedrun on the channel of the starting characters, and we thought we at least knew some things going into the launch. However, we have just had a major thing dropped on us coming out of Japan Expo in France, and that is that the 8 jobs that we thought we knew aren't the only jobs that are in the game. So the whole premise of Octopath is that there's these 8 characters with their 8 stories, and that they each have their own job. Now we knew that there was going to be a sub-job option in the game for you to mix and match the jobs that the various characters have. For example, taking Primrose, who is a dancer, and maybe giving her something like a scholar sub-job. Now this is a feature that unlocks later in the game, but we thought that this was going to be the only sort of customization when it came to the jobs for the individual characters. We have now learned that there will actually be 4 hidden jobs throughout the game that you can then assign to the characters using that sub-job feature. Now what you're going to be seeing here is footage that comes out of the Japan Expo in France from the Nintendo channel, and it showcases a little bit of each of the 4 jobs that they unveiled as the hidden jobs. The first one they unveiled was Augur, which has various defensive and offensive skills. For example, he used one attack called Ethereal Care, which was an AoE regen for several turns. He used another attack called Shooting Star, which was an AoE spell that was on the enemies. And the different hits appeared to be hitting different elements, whereas the first one was wind, it looked like one of the other ones was dark, and I couldn't identify the third one. There's also an attack called Tenfold Bp, which is not shown, but based on the name, I think we could pretty much figure out what anything that involves BP in the words tenfold. And then there was another skill called Stellar Chant. Next up was the Enchanter, which all we could really glean about this was that it had multi-hit AoE skills of the various elements. Now I'm assuming they don't have every skill for these new jobs unlocked when they're actually showing them off, but we do get to see that it was, they used a 3-hit wind skill, for example, and that's going to be really good for breaking lots of enemies when they share a lot of weaknesses. Then was the Rune Lord, which was one of my favorites. This and the Warlord, I'd say, which is the 4th one we'll talk about, were my 2 favorites that they showed off. The Rune Lord uses elemental runes of the various elements. Now when people think Rune Lord, they're probably thinking like Rune Fencer from the Final Fantasy series. However, it appears that the elemental runes actually provide a buff that causes an additional elemental hit at the end of your attacks. Now we only get to see this for the basic attacks, but it seems to A, benefit from boosts, and B, be considered an additional hit. So if you were to do 3 hits in a turn, this would act as a 4th hit. Now one other supposed thing that it might do, and we don't really get very clear footage of it, is that it may also be changing your attacks to be not only, for example, a dagger or axe type skill, but to also be elementally aspected with whatever rune you've equipped. Now again, I think this all applies to basic attacks, but only because we don't have enough footage at this point to say otherwise. But it's a nice way to boost the elements on your basic attacks in order to make better use of breaking and burst damage, since it looks to contribute to both with that extra hit on the end. Now there was one skill they didn't show off called Transfer Rune, so we have no idea what it actually does, but a common suspicion and the name of the skill would, kind of hint that maybe you could transfer this effect that you've put on yourself onto an ally. I'm hoping that's what it does, especially with what I'm going to tell you the next job actually does. And the final job they showed off was the Warlord. Now the Warlord has one big thing about it, and that's that it can equip all weapon types in the game simultaneously. This means that this job is capable of hitting every physical weakness at the very least, which is why I want the Rune Lord transfer rune skill to potentially work, because then you could also transfer a rune over to a character that is a second job Warlord. Unfortunately, because these jobs are secondary jobs and you always start the game as the base 8 jobs, it's worth saying that it probably isn't possible to get a character that's both a Rune Lord and a Warlord. These are going to be things that you're going to have to think about when going into customizing your characters. But having one of each in the party just sounds like such a good thing. Having one character that with a transfer rune would be able to hit every possible weakness, or at least every weakness that both the Rune Lord and the Warlord can hit. Now it also had a bunch of different attacks. It had a sword and a polearm skill that go unshown, and an axe hit that was shown to be an AoE single hit, and then it had another attack called Infernal Chimera, which is also unshown. Now we could probably assume that they have attacks for the other weapons as well, but again, we don't know exactly how many skills they've shown having. Now with that, I am 10 times more excited about this than I have been, and as every day goes by, Octopath just keeps seeming to get better and better from the outside. We still have some questions about the game itself and various different sources about different things about the game that I'm not going to get to talking about here, but I am so excited to produce some Octopath content on the channel starting next Saturday. Fortunately, I'll be gone in New Jersey Wednesday, Thursday, Friday when the game launches and when the game launches early, so I won't get to play it till next Saturday. But all the same, hopefully you guys are looking forward to some Octopath related content on the channel. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned because starting next week, we've got some Octopath content coming. I will see all of you in the next video, and until then, take care.